scream pierced through the stillness of the night. It cut through the air like a sharpened blade, abrupt and raw. In a small farming village, nestled among rolling hills of gold and green, a pair of thieves found themselves frozen in place, eyes wide, hearts racing. They'd come for treasure, yes, but what they faced now was a kind of fury they'd never anticipated. It all began just after sunset. The day had bled into night, and the wind whispered secrets among the corn stalks as two shadowed figures crept across the farmer's field. The farmers were well known in the village, strong, stubborn, and fiercely protective of their land. If you were brave enough to step onto their property after dark, you would quickly learn that the beauty of their farm belied a world of danger lurking beneath. The thieves, Aaron and Malik, believed they were clever. They had heard murmurs in taverns about hidden treasures, a stash of gold coins, buried relics, stories spoken in hushed tones that ignited their imaginations. They plotted and planned, fueled by dreams of riches that would change their lives forever. But tonight they had ventured into the lion's den. As they snuck closer to the farmhouse, a flicker illuminated the horizon. Was it a lantern? No, just the last embers of the setting sun clinging desperately to the day. But the light was enough to throw their shadows against the wall, making them look far more conspicuous than they intended. They huddled behind a barn, crude wooden boards creaking beneath their weight as they mapped out their next move. "Just a quick grab," Aaron whispered, excitement dancing in his eyes. "In and out." Malik nodded, though the unease knotted in his stomach. He opened his mouth to voice a protest but thought better of it. Who was he to question the audacity that had driven them here, hiding behind fear, when they could be tasting the sweet nectar of wealth? They pushed through the last stretch of darkness and approached the farmhouse. The wooden door creaked like a ghost as they nudged it open, heartbeats pounding against their rib cages. Inside, everything looked ordinary, untouched. Old pots hung above a fire pit, wooden tables still set from dinner. Nothing noticeable, nothing unusual, but they sensed a certain weight in the air. Malik finally whispered. Aaron brushed off the thought, a cocky grin on his face. "You're just scared. Search the living room." As they separated, shadows darted between racks of shelves where dusty books stood sentinel over their secrets. The atmosphere turned thick. It was as if the very walls held their breath, waiting for the inevitable sliver of chaos. Malik felt his fingers tremble as he rifled through drawers, uncovering nothing but a collection of spoons and old photographs. Deflated but determined, he pressed on, overcoming the impulse to flee. Meanwhile, in the cellar, Aaron's eyes adjusted to the dim light. He hesitated, a damp chill raising the hairs on his neck. As he moved deeper into the musty space, his instinct screamed at him to turn back, but greed surged in his chest, pushing him forward. It wasn't until a slight rustle caught his attention that he froze, nails biting into the wood of a nearby barrel. He murmured, squinting into the darkness. Behind him lay a shadow of figure slowly materializing out of the gloom. There, looming with palpable intensity, was the farmer himself. Tall, rugged, and weathered by years of hard labor, yet his piercing gaze was sharp enough to cut through the dark. Aaron's heart plummeted. The farmer, known in town for his fierce disposition and determination to protect what belonged to him, stood like a mountain before the thief. Rage writhed in the air, and in that moment it became unequivocally clear. They were far from being the hunters, they had become prey. The farmer's voice rumbled, deep and unyielding. Panic flared, and Aaron's instincts kicked into overdrive. He bolted for the stairs, propelled by fear and adrenaline, but the farmer's voice rang out like thunder. Upstairs, Malik had heard the commotion, the sound of both a gasp and hurried footsteps. Blindly, he dashed through the farmhouse, beer-soaked bravado evaporating like morning mist, only to crash into Aaron at the bottom of the stairs. The two thieves stood in the moonlight, gasping, eyes wide and full of dread, their plans unraveled before them. And then came the unmistakable sound of heavy boots stomping through the dirt. The farmer descended, shadow growing larger with every step. A surge of desperate camaraderie passed between the two young men. They did the only thing they could. They fled. Outside, the air was filled with the rich scent of earth that had been cooled by the night. Adrenaline surged, propelling them across the field. Into the shadows they ran, hearts pounding in synchronization as the farmer's growls echoed behind them. Panic fueled their flight, transforming simple footfalls into a cacophony of their fear. But the farmer, he was relentless. Each step he took seemed to pursue them with purpose, as though the land itself was behind him, urging him onward. As they stumbled through rows of corn, the dense foliage concealed them for a moment, but not for long. Then suddenly, a flash. Was it a lantern? No, it was the glowing eyes of their pursuer, reflecting his determination and wrath. Malik gasped and stumbled, falling to the ground with a thud. Aaron stopped, chest heaving, and turned back. "Go!" he yelled, conflicted by the loyalty he felt for his friend versus the instinct to save himself. Before he could properly decide, the farmer broke through the cornstalks, a full display of fury leaving no room for negotiation. His figure loomed larger than life, a living testament to the strength forged through years of toil. The air felt electric, charged with the sacrifice woven between them, the illusion of control unraveling as the reality of consequence set in. Fearing for their lives, they turned to flee again, but desperation clouded their judgment. The farmer bellowed, voice echoing across the field, ancient and primal. Aaron shouted, barely managing to catch his breath. He roared back, every inch the protector of his land. "You think this is some game?" Suddenly, they heard the deep growl of the farmer's dogs rising in tandem, fierce and hungry, bounding through the night toward them. In that instant, the reality of their stupidity hit. They weren't just thieves, they were foolish intruders. The sound of panting and barking swirled in the air, like a storm ready to burst. Aaron and Malik ran harder, limbs pumping with fear, adrenaline igniting every nerve ending. They darted left and right, hoping to confuse the hounds that followed. But the wild cries of the anxious dogs only intensified, igniting even more panic in their hearts. They crashed through the cornfield as chaos erupted around them, the beautiful farmland transforming into a twisted realm of terror. Suddenly, Malik stumbled again, this time to the ground with an agonizing grunt. Aaron heard him cry out, and against the instinct to keep running, he hesitated. "Get up, we have to go," he shouted, fear a tangible entity pressing against his throat, but Malik grasped his ankle, panic-stricken. "I can't." In that moment, life took a turn. Aaron could feel the weight of the world, friendship, fear, desperation all crashing down upon him like a wave. It was no longer about gold or treasure, but about loyalty that transcended even their reckless pursuit. "Leave me," Malik gasped. Aaron grunted, crouching down beside him. His heart raced, a chaotic symphony of thoughts spiraling into a singular focus. Survival, bond forged in the fires of adversity. He lifted Malik onto his shoulder, muscles straining as he hoisted his friend. Together they stumbled through the field. Every sound amplified the hounds at their heels, the farmer's voice a clarion call in the dark. Then they burst into the open, headed toward the edge of the field. And as the dogs closed in, a single thought took root in Aaron's mind. They had underestimated the farmer, underestimated the wild spirit of those who'd built their lives from the soil, who fought fiercely to protect what they had. As they neared a fence bordering the woods, Aaron hurled Malik over first, praying desperately that somehow they could escape. He pushed himself up and leaped after his friend, battling through the underbrush, never looking back. When they finally stumbled into the dark of the trees, breathless and lost, the sounds of pursuit faded. The trees enveloped them, an almost sanctuary after the fears they'd faced. Gasping in disbelief, they dropped to the cool earth, hearts racing and minds still reeling. Malik's voice trembled more from disbelief than exhaustion. With haunted expressions, they locked eyes. They didn't just flee the farmer. They had outrun the shadow of who they had been fleeing, the pull of greed and the grip of foolish ambition. For out there, under the blanket of stars, they finally realized that true treasure lay not in gold or silver, but in friendship, loyalty, and the hard-earned wisdom that grew from struggles faced and battles fought. They paused, their breathing finally calming, and in the distance, the farmer's voice echoed one last time, fierce and unwavering. The words cut deeper than they expected, the harsh truth settling in like a stone in their stomachs, for nothing had ever felt as valuable as the lessons learned that night. A board creaked underfoot, a sound drowned by the cacophony of a restless night. Beneath the silver glow of the moon, two figures slipped through the overgrown grass surrounding a farm, shadows gripped by a chilling taunt of fate. They were out for treasure, two desperate men chasing whispers of golden dreams. But what they found was a ferocity they couldn't have imagined, a storm brewing behind the quiet facade of the farmer's home. As they neared the farmhouse, Aaron felt a thrill run up his spine, a mix of fear and adrenaline. His heart raced, the pulse almost deafening. "Tonight's the night," he murmured to Malik beside him, who nodded but hesitated, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. Once revered, their ambition turned to folly. They had spent nights swirling in dreams of riches, fueled by whispers from taverns about a stash buried deep under the old oak tree, a hidden treasure waiting for the right hands to claim it. But as they stood on the cusp of their destiny, doubt gnawed at Malik's gut. He whispered, biting his lip, "It's just a little digging. We'll be in and out before they even know we're here," Aaron boasted, masking his own trepidation with bravado. His hand gripped a rusty lantern. Brief flickers of light danced along the weathered walls, casting their shadows like ghosts reluctant to leave. The farmer was known as a recluse, but tales of his wrath echoed through the village, stories of men who trespassed and faced a fury that turned dark skies into hellish nightmares. As they pushed open the creaking door, its sound echoed through the still air like a distant warning. Dust motes floated lazily in the beam of their lantern. Inside, the home was filled with memories, a world untouched since the last light of day. It was cozy and yet eerie, the kind of space that felt alive, as if the walls were privy to secrets hidden deep within their fibers. Aaron swallowed hard, stepping forward. "I'll check the cellar. You search upstairs," he instructed, a bravado nestled within his voice that failed to mask his unease. Malik nodded, eyes darting around as shadows twisted and turned across the floorboards. The scent of aged wood mixed with the earthy aroma of the soil below seeped through the spaces between the floorboards. Malik climbed the worn staircase, breath shallow as he felt the weight of 1,000 eyes watching him. The muted sounds of the house heavily coated the tension, a silence pregnant with anticipation. Meanwhile, Aaron wandered into the cellar, the grip on his lantern trembling slightly. The air grew colder, and a shiver cascaded down his spine, each step an agonizing whisper of caution. But greed, that insatiable beast lurking in his gut, egged him on. A flicker in the depths caught his eye. What lay behind that weathered door? Steeling himself, Aaron approached, the lantern illuminating the cold iron handle. He hesitated, heart racing with a mixture of fear and excitement. What if the treasure was within arm's reach? With one quick turn of the handle, he opened the door, and the darkness surged toward him, almost alive, wrapping around him like ice. He stepped inside, the wooden floorboards groaning beneath his weight. With his heart pounding in his ears, he swept the lantern across the room, revealing lines of dusty tools and cobweb boxes. Nothing glittered back. Frustration boiled, but his eyes caught a glimpse of something in the corner, a weathered book resting atop an old chest. With a deep breath, Aaron approached, flicking the moth-eaten pages open. Handwritten notes danced beneath his fingertips, tales of old treasures long lost. The writing had an urgency to it, a man recounting every grain of wisdom tied to the land. Suddenly, he heard a noise that sent a chill racing through him, a growl low and guttural resonating through the cramped space. His blood turned to ice. It was then that he remembered the farmer's dogs, reinforcements to a protector's rage. His heart leapt into his throat as he bolted back toward the stairs, the lantern swinging wildly in his hand. He screamed, panic slicing through the air. At that moment, Malik stumbled onto the landing, breathless, terrified. He gasped. The look of fear painted on his face was enough to send a shiver down Aaron's spine. No, but the unmistakable sound of barking erupted like a thunderclap outside, fierce and hungry. The dogs weren't just guarding the property, they were ready to hunt. "I heard it too," Malik whispered, terror flooding his features. They jumped down the stairs in a flurry of limbs, the aroma of wood and dust swirling in the chaos. The growls intensified, vibrating in the air as they flung themselves towards the back door, limbs flailing with adrenaline dominating every ounce of reason. The thrill of escape danced wildly through their minds, but lurking beneath the surface lay the icy grip of dread. They stumbled through the wooden door and into the murmurs of the night, breathless under the blanket of stars. But the dark had become a hunting ground. As they dashed toward the fields, shadows of ferocious beasts charged after them, nails clicking against the hard earth. Thrashing, frantic, they wove through the labyrinth of corn, hoping to lose themselves in the rows. But the farmer, he was already ready, a warrior in his domain. Bratty barks filled the air, a symphony of chaos trailing behind them like an ominous shadow. Every twist and turn in the cornfields felt like a dance with death, their desperation fueled by the reality that they were not just thieves but unwelcome invaders. A crescendo of fear washed over them, a blend of their choices chasing them like the dogs behind. Malik shouted, pointing to a narrow edge in the distance, where the cornfields met the dark woods. If they could reach it, they stood a chance to lose the pack. As they barreled through the stalks, the rustling of their escape created a cover, momentarily drowning out the chaos. But it was short-lived. They emerged into the clearing, breathless yet hopeful. Still, they could hear the barks, the rush of the dogs gaining on them. Malik tripped, falling onto his knees. He gasped, panic-stricken. Aaron gripped his friend's arm, urgency pulsing through him. They were bound together by a thread stronger than fear, their friendship. Without waiting for a reply, Aaron hoisted him up, adrenaline surging as he slung Malik's arm over his shoulder, supporting his weight. They managed to inch forward together, but the sounds behind them were nearing, the breathing of the dogs almost at their heels. Then suddenly, a figure emerged in front of them, tall and imposing, clad in the shadows of rage, the farmer himself. His eyes were fierce and his teeth clenched, fury palpable in the hot air surrounding them. His voice thrashed through the silence, powerful and booming. In that moment, time seemed to stop, every heartbeat echoing like a war drum. With instinct surpassing reason, Aaron released Malik's grip, urging him to run. "Go," Malik cried, but even as he said it, he sprinted away from the trees that felt like a farewell. Aaron stood his ground, the fading light of the lantern flickering in his grasp, revealing a hardening scene, a farmer with the kind of wisdom and strength that felt almost ancient. Came the growl etched in the farmer's growling voice. Aaron's breath caught in his throat, and panic flickered for just a moment as if the wind carried away the last hint of bravery he thought he possessed. Yet within that turmoil, he found a quiet determination. "We didn't want to hurt anyone," he thought aloud, voice trembling against the silence. "We were." Desperation. That word hung heavy in the air. He wasn't much different from the farmer. Two men, each shaped by the weight of life, approached from different sides, both standing for survival. "Then show me your worth," the farmer challenged, eyes narrowing. "Do you think theft creates a legacy?" With those words, vulnerability pierced through Aaron. "I'm sorry," he finally begged, raw and exposed. In that moment, the farmer paused, caught in a silent battle of understanding. The dogs, sensing his sudden shift, quieted. The tension coiled tightly in the air, a delicate balance between fear and respect. The farmer shook his head, something softening in his eyes. "Leave." And with that, Aaron dashed into the night, following Malik into the darkness of the woods. Safety lay ahead, but echoes of the farmer's words followed closely, resonating against the emotions they had awakened. As dawn broke, casting golden hues upon the fields, Aaron and Malik emerged from the thicket, faces pale and breathless, hearts thundering with the weight of their choices. They ran not just for their lives, but for the last glimmers of humanity left within them, armed now with a lesson that would echo far louder than the call of gold, the truth of hard work and honor. In the days that followed, they found new purpose. With hands willing to toil and hearts ready to grow, they embraced the soil instead of stripping it bare. Life became a new treasure, forged in the fires of their failed ambitions. And each time they looked back toward that distant farm, they carried the farmer's fury in their chests, a raging reminder of what grew not from greed but through honest labor, the true riches life had to offer. The moon hung high, casting an eerie glow over an isolated farm, where the fields stretched like a forgotten ocean under a blanket of stars. Two shadows moved stealthily, their hearts pounding with a reckless blend of excitement and fear. The clinking of tools and quiet murmurs echoed through the still night, the farmers long asleep, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon their peaceful world. Aaron and Malik, two small-town dreamers with eyes full of greed, had spent weeks plotting this very moment. They'd gathered scraps of stories from drunks in taverns, whispers of buried treasure right beneath the old oak tree on the farmer's land. It sounded like a fantasy gold coins tucked away, waiting for the brave to claim them. Tonight they thought they would be those brave souls. As they approached the old farmhouse, the wind picked up, rustling through the cornfields. Crouching low, they felt the cold earth beneath their fingers. Malik whispered, anxiety spilling over into his voice. "Just a quick dig under that tree and we'll be rich," Aaron replied, his voice dripping with excitement, masking his own creeping doubt. He took a deep breath, letting the thrill wash over him as they edged closer. They crept along the side of the house, their footsteps soft against the worn wood of the porch. The farmhouse loomed before them, a relic of hard work and resilience. It felt like they were trespassing on sacred ground, yet the glimmer of treasure ignited fire in their bellies. Aaron gestured toward the towering oak in the distance, its branches almost beckoning them forward. He said, and they darted into the darkness, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Underneath the sprawling branches of the oak, they dropped to their knees, digging hands into the soft earth. Malik said, a hint of panic creeping in. "Relax, we're quick and no one's gonna know," Aaron reassured, his hands moving faster, muscles straining against the earth. But every time a twig snapped underfoot, Malik flinched, his skin crawling with apprehension. After a few minutes of frantic digging, Aaron's hands hit something solid. A hard thud echoed through the hollow silence. His heart raced. He clawed at the dirt, revealing a battered wooden chest, hinges rusted with age. It felt heavy, laden with secrets and dreams. Malik urged, breathless with anticipation. Taking a breath, Aaron lifted the lid, revealing a trove of dusty trinkets, old coins, faded photographs, perhaps remnants of a life forgotten. His chest puffed with pride, but as he picked up a tarnished coin, a deep rumbling voice cut through the stillness. The voice was commanding, raw and hoarse. Panic surged. Aaron's grip tightened around the coin. "We have to go," he shouted, shoving the chest closed and scrambling to his feet. As they turned to run, the darkness shifted, revealing a silhouette standing beneath the oak, tall, broad-shouldered, and eyes glimmering with anger. The farmer had emerged from his house, lantern in hand, illuminating the two would-be thieves for the first time. He bellowed, voice resonating like thunder through the night. The sheer force of it sent a shiver down Malik's spine. Malik screamed and they tore away from the tree, fear propelling them forward as the farmer's furious pursuit rumbled behind them. The sound of heavy boots and barking dogs filled the air, a symphony of chaos urging them into a desperate flight. Dashing through the cornfields, heartbeats raced in unison, adrenaline pushing them further into the night. But the farmer's voice, a thunderclap in the darkness, chased after them. "Get back here." Malik's breath was ragged, their bodies weighed down not just by fear but by sins they never intended to commit. "What now?" he gasped, a bead of sweat trailing down his brow. Desperation coursed through Aaron. He shouted, veering off the narrow path toward the nearby woods. The tree line loomed ahead, dark and inviting, a potential sanctuary from the storm rising behind them. "We'll lose him in there," he panted, casting a glance back as the farmer closed the distance, his dogs picking up speed. The growls echoed like shadows, filling their minds with terror. Once inside the thicket, they pressed against the bark of a massive tree, hearts thundering against their chests. Aaron clamped a hand over Malik's mouth to hush his frantic breaths as the sounds of pursuit faded momentarily, drowned out by the rustling leaves and the chaos in their minds. "He'll find us," Malik whispered, eyes wide with fear. "No. We just need to catch our breath," Aaron insisted, but doubt gnawed at him. How had it come to this? They hadn't considered the consequences, the reality of what they were doing. They had sought treasure and now they faced fury. Moments passed in agonizing silence until they dared to peek out from their hiding place. The moon filtered through the trees, casting shadows like an omen across the ground. The farmer had summoned his dogs back. His figure now loomed under the old oak, strong like the very roots that had nurtured the tree for decades. He roared, voice carrying through the night air. "This land holds the weight of hard work." Aaron's eyes widened, the broad reality they had ignored crashing in like a wave. They were intruders, transgressors of a bond built over years of toil and sweat. The farmer didn't just defend his land, he stood for every person who had ever cared for it. "Let's just apologize," Malik suggested, trembling with fear. "No way," Aaron shot back, uncertainty brewing in his voice, but the farmer's mounting fury was palpable. He shouted, piercing through their veil of panic. With the reality crashing down, motivation shifted. They failed to see the consequences of their greed, the depth of the life they had disrupted. "We didn't mean to," Malik yelled, stepping cautiously from their hiding place, heart racing as he raised his hands in surrender. His voice quivered in the stillness, and for a moment it felt like the world held its breath. The farmer's gaze was fiery, penetrating. "Treasure." His voice wasn't just filled with anger, it was laced with disappointment, a glimpse into a deeper hurt. Malik swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the farmer's words. "We didn't understand," he choked out, the truth surfacing like a bitter cough. For a heartbeat, time paused, breaths caught in the air like spider silk. The farmer's expression shifted, the storm within him battling against the weight of his emotions. "You think life runs on greed?" As that harsh truth washed over them, the reality of their choices thickened the air between them. They grasped the unspoken bond of loyalty, of work and respect that tied the farmer to his land. In their wild ambition of treasure, they had disregarded the very foundation of life that gave purpose. "Please," Aaron asked, voice edged with desperation. "Let us make it right, we can help you." But the farmer waved a hand, cutting off the desperate words. "What you seek cannot be bought. The treasure lies in the land you're trying to take. Come back at dawn." Fear rippled through them, a certainty of hard labor awaited, yet it felt like a lifeline. Facing the consequences of their actions, perhaps they could reclaim what they had lost. As dawn broke, Aaron and Malik stood before the farmer, a weak sun filtering through the clouds, illuminating the fields shimmering with morning dew. Truths revealed themselves in every furrow, every row of crops, each carrying stories of a history they had only glimpsed in whispers. Under the farmer's watchful eye, they learned the basics of tilling, the rhythm of the earth, understanding that every seed planted required time, patience, and care. The work was grueling, muscle aching under a sun that burned bright, yet with every drop of sweat, they found a fragment of pride creeping into their hearts. The farmer asked one day, watching them labor, brows furrowed, yet faces determined. "It feels right," Malik admitted, wiping his brow, a smile slowly creeping in, born from hard work and growth. With every ounce of struggle, they discovered the true treasure of life, the relationships forged in toil, the respect for the land, and the lessons of humility. As the days turned into weeks, the farmer watched their transformation, a flicker of hope alighting in his heart. They worked side by side, united by a bond that had emerged from the ashes of desperation. And as the season turned, they saw the fruits of their labor flourish, a harvest bursting forth with life. They had uncovered the true spoils of their efforts, not gold coins or hidden riches, but understanding, respect, and a sense of belonging. Standing under the oak tree once more, now with hands softened by work and hearts brimming with gratitude, Aaron and Malik finally understood the allure of hard-earned treasure. They were no longer the scared burglars who came for greed. They had become men forged in the fires of reality, humbled by the grace of a farmer who had shown them the way. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden hues across the land, a visual symphony of labor and love intertwined. Every wave of color resonated with those profound lessons learned, a truth that would shape their lives from that moment onward. They exchanged glances, understanding now that the true wealth of life was never meant to be buried. The moon hung high, casting an eerie glow over an isolated farm, where the fields stretched like a forgotten ocean under a blanket of stars. Two shadows moved stealthily, their hearts pounding with a reckless blend of excitement and fear. The clinking of tools and quiet murmurs echoed through the still night, the farmers long asleep, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon their peaceful world. Aaron and Malik, two small-town dreamers with eyes full of greed, had spent weeks plotting this very moment. They'd gathered scraps of stories from drunks in taverns, whispers of buried treasure right beneath the old oak tree on the farmer's land. It sounded like a fantasy gold coins tucked away, waiting for the brave to claim them. Tonight they thought they would be those brave souls. As they approached the old farmhouse, the wind picked up, rustling through the cornfields. Crouching low, they felt the cold earth beneath their fingers. Malik whispered, anxiety spilling over into his voice. "Just a quick dig under that tree and we'll be rich," Aaron replied, his voice dripping with excitement, masking his own creeping doubt. He took a deep breath, letting the thrill wash over him as they edged closer. They crept along the side of the house, their footsteps soft against the worn wood of the porch. The farmhouse loomed before them, a relic of hard work and resilience. It felt like they were trespassing on sacred ground, yet the glimmer of treasure ignited fire in their bellies. Aaron gestured toward the towering oak in the distance, its branches almost beckoning them forward. He said, and they darted into the darkness, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Underneath the sprawling branches of the oak, they dropped to their knees, digging hands into the soft earth. Malik said, a hint of panic creeping in. "Relax, we're quick and no one's gonna know," Aaron reassured, his hands moving faster, muscles straining against the earth. But every time a twig snapped underfoot, Malik flinched, his skin crawling with apprehension. After a few minutes of frantic digging, Aaron's hands hit something solid. A hard thud echoed through the hollow silence. His heart raced. He clawed at the dirt, revealing a battered wooden chest, hinges rusted with age. It felt heavy, laden with secrets and dreams. Malik urged, breathless with anticipation. Taking a breath, Aaron lifted the lid, revealing a trove of dusty trinkets, old coins, faded photograph, perhaps remnants of a life forgotten. His chest puffed with pride, but as he picked up a tarnished coin, a deep rumbling voice cut through the stillness. The voice was commanding, raw and hoarse. Panic surged. Aaron's grip tightened around the coin. "We have to go," he shouted, shoving the chest closed and scrambling to his feet. As they turned to run, the darkness shifted, revealing a silhouette standing beneath the oak, tall, broad-shouldered, and eyes glimmering with anger. The farmer had emerged from his house, lantern in hand, illuminating the two would-be thieves for the first time. He bellowed, voice resonating like thunder through the night. The sheer force of it sent a shiver down Malik's spine. Malik screamed, and they tore away from the tree, fear propelling them forward as the farmer's furious pursuit rumbled behind them. The sound of heavy boots and barking dogs filled the air, a symphony of chaos urging them into a desperate flight. Dashing through the cornfields, heartbeats raced in unison, adrenaline pushing them further into the night. But the farmer's voice, a thunderclap in the darkness, chased after them. "Get back here." Malik's breath was ragged, their bodies weighed down not just by fear but by the weight of their transgressions. "What now?" he gasped, a bead of sweat trailing down his brow. Desperation coursed through Aaron. He shouted, veering off the narrow path toward the nearby woods. The tree line loomed ahead, dark and inviting, a potential sanctuary from the storm rising behind them. "We'll lose him in there," he panted, casting a glance back as the farmer closed the distance, his dogs picking up speed. The growls echoed like shadows, filling their minds with terror. Once inside the thicket, they pressed against the bark of a massive tree, hearts thundering against their chests. Aaron clamped a hand over Malik's mouth to hush his frantic breaths as the sounds of pursuit faded momentarily, drowned out by the rustling leaves and the chaos in their minds. "He'll find us," Malik whispered, eyes wide with fear. "No, we just need to catch our breath," Aaron insisted, but doubt gnawed at him. How had it come to this? They hadn't considered the consequences, the reality of what they were doing. They had sought treasure and now they faced fury. Moments passed in agonizing silence until they dared to peek out from their hiding place. The moon filtered through the trees, casting shadows like an omen across the ground. The farmer had summoned his dogs back. His figure now loomed under the old oak, strong like the very roots that had nurtured the tree for decades. He roared, voice carrying through the night air. "This land holds the weight of hard work." Aaron's eyes widened, the broad reality they had ignored crashing in like a wave. They were intruders, transgressors of a bond built over years of toil and sweat. The farmer didn't just defend his land, he stood for every person who had ever cared for it. "Let's just apologize," Malik suggested, trembling with fear. "No way," Aaron shot back, uncertainty brewing in his voice, but the farmer's mounting fury was palpable. He shouted, piercing through their veil of panic. With the reality crashing down, motivation shifted. They failed to see the consequences of their greed, the depth of the life they had disrupted. "We didn't mean to," Malik yelled, stepping cautiously from their hiding place, heart racing as he raised his hands in surrender. His voice quivered in the stillness, and for a moment it felt like the world held its breath. The farmer's gaze was fiery, penetrating. "Treasure." His voice wasn't just filled with anger, it was laced with disappointment, a glimpse into a deeper hurt. Malik swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the farmer's words. "We didn't understand," he choked out, the truth surfacing like a bitter cough. For a heartbeat, time paused, breaths caught in the air like spider silk. The farmer's expression shifted, the storm within him battling against the weight of his emotions. "You think life runs on greed?" As that harsh truth washed over them, the reality of their choices thickened the air between them. They grasped the unspoken bond of loyalty, of work and respect that tied the farmer to his land. In their wild ambition of treasure, they had disregarded the very foundation of life that gave purpose. "Please," Aaron asked, voice edged with desperation, "let us make it right, we can help you." But the farmer waved a hand, cutting off the desperate words. "What you seek cannot be bought. The treasure lies in the land you're trying to take. Come back at dawn." Fear rippled through them, a certainty of hard labor awaited, yet it felt like a lifeline. Facing the consequences of their actions, perhaps they could reclaim what they had lost. As dawn broke, casting golden hues upon the fields, Aaron and Malik stood before the farmer, a weak sun filtering through the clouds, illuminating the fields shimmering with morning dew. Truths revealed themselves in every furrow, every row of crops, each carrying stories of a history they had only glimpsed in whispers. Under the farmer's watchful eye, they learned the basics of tilling, the rhythm of the earth, understanding that every seed planted required time, patience, and care. The work was grueling, muscle aching under a sun that burned bright, yet with every drop of sweat, they found a fragment of pride creeping into their hearts. The farmer asked one day, watching them labor, brows furrowed, yet faces determined, "It feels right," Malik admitted, wiping his brow, a slow smile creeping across his face, born from hard work and growth. With every ounce of struggle, they discovered the true treasure of life, the relationships forged in toil, the respect for the land, and the lessons of humility. As the days turned into weeks, the farmer watched their transformation, a flicker of hope alighting in his heart. They worked side by side, united by a bond that had emerged from the ashes of desperation. And as the season turned, they saw the fruits of their labor flourish, a harvest bursting forth with life. They had uncovered the true spoils of their efforts, not gold coins or hidden riches, but understanding, respect, and a sense of belonging. Standing under the oak tree once more, now with hands softened by work and hearts brimming with gratitude, Aaron and Malik finally understood the allure of hard-earned treasure. They were no longer the scared burglars who came for greed. They had become men forged in the fires of reality, humbled by the grace of a farmer who had shown them the way. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting golden hues across the land, a visual symphony of labor and love intertwined. Every wave of color resonated with those profound lessons learned, a truth that would shape their lives from that moment onward. They exchanged glances, understanding now that the true wealth of life was never meant to be buried. It bloomed in the soil beneath their feet, held within the heart of honest work, and flourished from relationships that enriched their very souls. A sharp scream echoed through the night, a sudden shattering of the stillness that sent ripples of tension through the air. In a quaint farming village stood a modest farmhouse, its darkened windows hiding secrets and steadfast resolve. Two figures crept through the shadows, driven by whispers of treasure buried beneath ancient roots. Aaron and Malik, two small-time burglars with grand ambitions, found themselves in a place they never should have dared to tread. Malik whispered, his voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. The moonlight cast a silver glow on the worn path leading to the farmer's land, the very spot where legends spoke of gold coins and lost relics hidden in the depths of the old oak tree. Absolutely, Aaron shot back, confidence spilling from him like the shadows cloaking their every move. They had spent weeks gathering tales from the tavern-drunken laments of old men who spoke of riches lying beneath the very ground they stood upon. For these two dreamers, it was the hope of a better life, a step away from mundanity and into a world where fortunes could be made in one audacious stroke. Under the dense foliage of the oak, excitement pulsed through Aaron's veins. The moon illuminated their escape route, casting long silhouettes on the crisp, moist earth. Tension wrapped itself around them. The anticipation was electric. With shaking hands, they dropped to their knees, digging eagerly into the loose soil. Each scoop of dirt that flew behind them seemed to whisper warnings they chose to ignore. Malik's heart raced, the thought of getting caught gripping him harder than any fear he ever faced. He hissed, glancing over his shoulder. "No way, just a little deeper," Aaron insisted, his voice dripping with audacity. His hands plunged into the earth, fingers moving more urgently now, the thrill blinding him to the consequences that loomed. They dug with a desperation fueled by dreams, by visions of what they would do with their newfound wealth. But as seconds turned to minutes, Malik's unease morphed into something more profound, an awareness that this was not just a treasure hunt. They were trespassing on someone else's life, their dreams. Before Malik could voice his worries again, Aaron's spade hit something solid, a dull thud that echoed louder than the sound of their racing hearts. He gasped, panting with urgency. The ancient chest began to emerge, covered in grime but glinting with the promise of what lay inside. Malik urged, his pulse racing. Taking a deep breath, Aaron pried open the lid, revealing layers of dust and mystery. As the hinges creaked, every nerve in their bodies tingled with anticipation. Inside lay tarnished coins, trinkets, and faded photographs, remnants of lives long forgotten. Before they could fully process the treasure in front of them, a booming voice shattered the night. The two burglars froze, terror washing over them as they turned to see the towering figure of the farmer, lantern raised high enough to illuminate their terror-stricken faces. His eyes glinted like daggers, fierce with the anger of a man who had protected his land for years. Malik screamed, adrenaline igniting a primal fear. They scrambled away from the tree, heartbeats echoing in their ears as their bodies moved faster than thought itself. The farmer's roar followed them, adding a raw edge to the chaos. "You little thieves!" The dogs joined the chorus of fury, barking fiercely, their growls a chilling reminder of the stakes. As they dashed through the fields, the farmer's menacing figure loomed behind them, a relentless force on their trail. Aaron could almost feel the heat from his rage burning at his back. They were no longer just running from a man. They were fleeing the consequences of their choices, the dark reality of their greed becoming palpable. He veered sharply, tearing into the cover of trees. Shadows loomed large around them, yet they pressed deeper, desperate to escape the fate they had forged through their reckless ambition. With the thick underbrush surrounding them, they pressed against the trunk of a massive tree, trying to catch their breath. The anguished sounds of pursuit began to fade, replaced by the low rustle of leaves and the heavy silence that enveloped the woods. "I can't believe we thought we could get away with this," Malik gasped, a chill running down his spine. "It was just a mistake," Aaron stammered, his bravado slipping as the weight of their actions sank in. Their excitement had morphed into dread. As dawn approached, the potential for consequences loomed darker than the night itself. They dared to peek out from their hiding place, and what they saw sent a shudder through their entire beings. The farmer stood at the edge of the woods, fists clenched, scanning the darkness where they had fled. The lantern swung low, the light flickering ominously. He boomed, voice echoing through the trees. Fear coursed through Aaron as he tightened his grip around Malik's arm. "We need to go back and face him," he urged, realization dawning. They weren't just running from a man, they were fleeing a lesson they needed to learn. Malik protested. "Better than living with this fear," Aaron replied, determination swimming through his veins. With a reluctant nod, Malik followed Aaron back toward the edge of the woods, each step heavy with consequence. They emerged slowly, hearts racing, the cold morning air filling their lungs. "Please," Aaron began, stepping forward. "We didn't mean to steal, we just thought." The farmer glared at them, eyes stormy and fierce. He echoed, incredulous, By stealing from others, you think life is about shortcuts. Aaron bowed his head, shame flooding his body. We messed up, he admitted, words trembling in the cool air. We were foolish. With the truth hanging between them, a silence enveloped the air as the farmer's expression began to soften. Desperation doesn't excuse theft, he stated firmly, yet there was a hint of something else, a flicker of understanding. I know what it's like to struggle, he continued, his voice lower now, more contemplative. The words sank into Aaron and Malik like seeds taking root in fertile soil. They had chased dreams of easy wealth, only to find themselves standing naked before a man who embodied the very principles they had forgotten. Please, Malik spoke up, searching the farmer's eyes for a glimmer of hope. Let us make it right. Give us a chance to work to earn back your trust. The farmer regarded them with a mix of caution and curiosity. Work is not easy, he warned. It's hot, it's hard, and it often goes unrewarded. Aaron and Malik exchanged a glance, the reality of their request binding them closer than ever. They nodded, an unspoken agreement solidifying their resolve. Very well, the farmer replied, the corners of his mouth barely hinting at a smile. Meet me at dawn tomorrow. They stood in stunned silence, relief washing over them as dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink. They had faced the farmer's fury, and instead of vengeance, they had found a chance at redemption. As they prepared for their first day of work, muscles strained with anticipation and dread, the lessons of their choices began to reveal themselves. They learned to till the soil, to plant seeds with care, to nurture the land with their sweat. The sun bore down on them, relentless yet invigorating, and with every drop of sweat that fell from their brows, they found something new, a sense of pride in knowing they were contributing to something larger than themselves. Days turned into weeks, and gradually, change unfolded within them. They forged friendships not just with each other, but with the very land they had once sought to exploit. They learned to respect the farmer and the hard work that built his life. The dreams looped into the fabric of the earth beneath their feet. One day, in the midst of a particularly grueling harvest, Malik turned to Aaron, wiping his brow with a dirty hand. You know, I never thought I'd actually enjoy this, he admitted, a genuine smile breaking through. I know what you mean, Aaron replied, his own heart swelling with a newfound appreciation for the labor beneath the sun. As the summer faded and the harvest grew richer, the farmer watched with pride as the two young men transformed. They were no longer the scared burglars who came for greed. They had become diligent workers, bound by sweat and solidarity, learning the true meaning of wealth. One evening, as they gathered around the flickering light of a modest fire, the farmer joined them, his expression softening beyond the anger from that fateful night. They shared stories and laughter, the air filled with camaraderie and understanding, bridges mended over the flames of shared experiences. Life isn't about the treasure you can hold in your hands, the farmer reflected, gazing into the fire. Aaron and Malik nodded along, finally grasping the profound depth of his words. It wasn't about gold or riches. It was about finding purpose, about hard-earned lessons that shaped their souls. As the seasons changed, so did they. They continued to work on the farm, immersed in the richness of labor, transforming their desires into efforts that renewed their lives. They gained respect for the land and its past. It was a journey far more rewarding than any dream of quick wealth. Months later, they stood together beneath that same oak tree again, branches swaying under the weight of new leaves, the very spot that once marked their desperation. Look how far we've come, Malik said, a sense of pride swelling within him. And in that moment, they knew they had found something far more precious than any treasure, a bond forged through understanding, hard work, and respect. In the depths of their journey, they had faced the farmer's fury, only to emerge transformed and reborn through the flames of adversity. Under the vast expanse of the sky, they embraced the reality that true wealth lay not in stolen coins, but in the wealth of experience, the connections they had formed, and the lessons of life respecting others and the land itself. Their laughter mingled with the wind as they prepared to return to their tasks, hearts finally at peace, no longer just two reckless dreamers chasing ghosts, but men inseparably bound to the legacy of hard work that would guide their lives for years to come. The wind howled through the darkened fields, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and impending danger. Under the pale light of a crescent moon, two figures slipped through the shadows, hearts pounding, driven by dreams of fortune. Aaron and Malik, two small-time burglars, were convinced tonight would change their lives forever. Behind them lay a world of mundane routines and unfulfilled aspirations, but ahead was a well of untold treasures buried deep beneath the gnarled roots of an ancient oak tree. Malik's voice trembled as they crouched low, scanning their surroundings. "It's just the wind," Aaron replied, his confidence flickering like the dim light of their flashlight. "We're fine." They had huddled in the local tavern for weeks, absorbing tales of lost riches hidden in the earth of this very farm. Old-timers spoke of gold coins and forgotten valuables, treasures waiting for the bold-hearted to claim. For Aaron and Malik, the allure was too tempting, too intoxicating. Tonight was the night they would seize their fortunes. Creeping through the tall grass, the farmhouse loomed ahead, its windows dark, its door creaking ominously as if warning them to turn back. But they were past the point of no return now. "Let's just get to the tree and dig," Malik insisted, pushing aside his growing unease. They moved stealthily, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging as they approached the ancient oak, its branches stretching out like gnarled fingers reaching for the stars. Once there, they fell to their knees, fingers clawing at the soil, pushing away dirt and roots. Every scoop resonated with possibility. If they found the treasure, they could escape this life, leave their mundane existence behind. But with every passing moment, Malik's excitement waned, replaced by an unsettling feeling clawing at his insides. He whispered again, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "You're worrying too much," Aaron exclaimed, digging deeper, his determination unwavering. But then, with a sudden jarring noise, their world shifted. Wham! A door slammed somewhere nearby. The sound echoed ominously through the stillness, a dark reminder of the risk they were taking. Malik's eyes widened with fear. Aaron urged, his excitement edged with anxiety. But the energy in the air shifted, tension thickening with the increasing weight of the moment. With a final shove of the spade, they hit something hard and cold, the cadence of their hearts now matching the rhythm of their growing panic. "Is that?" Malik gasped, his voice trembling. Even through his fear, Aaron couldn't help but feel a thrill at the sight of the rusted chest protruding from the earth. Heart racing, he began to pry the lid open, anticipation buzzing through his veins. But before he could fully open it, a deep voice boomed from the shadows, piercing through the stillness like a knife. The world around them crumbled in an instant. Eyes wide, they spun around to face a figure enveloped in shadow, a tall, rugged man with a lantern held high, his face a mask of fury. The farmer had caught them red-handed. They bolted from the tree, adrenaline screaming through their bodies. The weight of the world crashed down on them as they fled, heartbeats pounding, breath coming in ragged gasps. The farmer's voice thundered behind them, followed by the menacing growl of dogs joining the chase. Each echoing bark sent a jolt of fear surging through their veins. They weren't just running from a man. They were running from the consequences of their choices, and in that moment those consequences felt insurmountable. Behind them, the farmer's fury ignited a fire in his pursuit, his footsteps heavy and determined. "Thieves." The weight of the words pressed down on Aaron as they burst into the cornfield, the stalks whipping at their arms and legs. Malik shouted, frantic. Aaron yelled, but their path was becoming a blur, the reality of their situation dawning on them. The thrill had turned into panic, and all hope of treasure evaporated like mist in the morning sun. They darted through the field, adrenaline fueling their steps, desperate to lose their pursuer. But the farmer's relentless growls of anger followed them, as vibrant as the night itself. "I'll call the authorities," he roared, fury igniting his words. Terror clawed at their hearts as they heard the hounds barking, gaining ground. The sound echoed through the darkness, a warning of the repercussions that awaited them. The fear of being caught transformed every breath into an echo of desperation. Over there, Aaron pointed toward a thicket of trees, their only hope of escaping. They plunged forward, weaving through the dense underbrush until finally they found sanctuary behind the trunk of a towering oak. Panting, they pressed against it, hearts racing wildly as silence enveloped them like a heavy blanket. But the stillness was deceptive, each rustle of leaves whispering threats of discovery. Tension hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and electric. Malik whispered, glancing around nervously. "I don't know," Aaron replied, panting, his heart racing. Moments ticked by as they strained to listen for the sounds of the farmer or the growls of the dogs, terror crawling up their spines. But as they caught their breaths, the reality of their reckless actions crystallized in their minds. They had come for treasure, but what they had really stolen was the farmer's peace, his trust, and the sanctity of his land. Just as the silence began to weigh heavily on them, a familiar voice rang out once more, sharper than before. "Thieves!" Their hearts dropped. The farmer was closer than they had hoped. The reality of their situation engulfed them, two foolish men caught in a trap of their own making. Malik whimpered, fear twisting in his gut. "Face him," Aaron finally decided, a wave of resolve washing over him. They couldn't keep running. It was time to confront the consequences, whatever they might be. With trembling hands, they moved slowly from behind the tree, revealing themselves against the blur of the moonlit background. We didn't mean to," Aaron stammered, the weight of his words heavy with shame. "Didn't mean to?" The farmer's eyes were fierce, a reflection of the anger that roared within him. The darkness of the forest surrounded them, echoes of their panic still coursing through the night. "We were desperate," Malik dared to speak, his voice a quivering whisper. "We thought there was treasure." The farmer's expression shifted slightly, fury still etched across his face, but now mingled with something else, an understanding. "Desperation doesn't justify theft. Please," Aaron pleaded, the weight of shame crashing down on him. "We messed up. We just wanted to get away from everything we thought." The farmer studied them, the anger in his eyes softening as his grip on the lantern loosened. He replied, his voice low. Their hearts raced at the unexpected proposal. Malik asked cautiously, confusion creeping in. "Come back at dawn," the farmer instructed, the strength in his voice regaining authority. "You will work the fields, understand the labor required to cultivate the land." A mix of fear and hope spiraled within Aaron. Would working the land really teach them what they needed to know, or was this just a way to punish them? But deep down, they knew it was a chance, a flicker of light in the shadow of their mistakes. Dawn broke, casting golden hues across the horizon as they approached the farm, the promise of redemption heavy in the air. Under the farmer's watchful gaze, the weight of the past pressed down on them, but they lifted themselves through the labor that lay ahead. They learned to till the soil, to plant seeds with the care needed to grow. As the days turned into weeks, they discovered the value of sweat, the labor of pulling weeds and nurturing crops, and the quiet joy of watching life flourish. They worked through the hot sun, their bodies aching, but with each day their spirits grew lighter. Malik smiled as he tossed dirt over newly planted seeds. "I never would have thought working the land could feel this rewarding," he admitted one day, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Me neither," Aaron replied, a newfound sense of purpose igniting within him. They were no longer just two desperate men searching for treasures. They had become part of something greater. With every drop of sweat that fell to the earth, they learned respect, not only for the farmer and his land, but for each other and, most importantly, for themselves. And as the harvest season approached, they realized that the true treasure was the lessons learned, the bonds forged through hard work and dedication. The farmer watched them transform, pride shining in his eyes as they prepared for the harvest. "You've earned something far greater than gold," he said one evening, standing among them. Standing together beneath the vast expanse of the sky, they exchanged glances filled with unspoken understanding. They had faced the farmer's fury, but instead of anger, they found compassion. Instead of punishment, they discovered a chance to grow. In that moment, they understood that real wealth lay not in treasure, but in the strength of character built through struggle and the bonds of friendship forged amidst adversity. As they gathered for the harvest feast with the farmer and the village, laughter mingled with the surroundings, nourishing them far more than any gold ever could. And in the warmth of the evening, they realized that they were no longer the burglars who had come for treasures buried in the ground. They were now men bonded by experience, transformed not just by the labor, but by the fear, the shame, and ultimately, the redemption that had guided their journey. The moon shone brilliantly overhead, encased by a tapestry of stars. Life had come full circle, not just for Aaron and Malik, but for the land itself. They had sown the seeds of possibility, and in return, the earth had given them something far more valuable than any stolen treasure. It had taught them their true worth. The dense fog rolled in under the cloak of night, wrapping around the old farmhouse like a shroud. Somewhere in the shadows, two figures crouched low, their breath misting in the cold air. Aaron and Malik could feel their hearts pounding in rhythm with the soft thud of the dirt beneath them. They were here for treasure, drawn by whispers of gold coins buried under the ancient oak tree that had stood for centuries, guarding its secrets. Malik hissed, anxiety threading through his voice. "Relax. We'll be in and out before anyone knows we're here," Aaron replied, his eyes sparkling with excitement and a hint of recklessness. The thrill of the heist was intoxicating, blinding him to the potential consequences. They crept closer to the oak, the moonlight filtering through its gnarled branches. The tree loomed over them, ancient and wise, as though it had witnessed countless tales of greed and folly. Legends floated around the small town. Old-timers spoke of hidden riches buried deep within the earth, treasures lost in time, waiting for the right hands to claim them. "It's a chance to back out," Malik said, biting his lip as he scanned the property. Aaron shot back. "This is our shot." He envisioned the life of luxury, bright lights, and freedom beckoning them like a siren's song. They reached their destination, a patch of soft earth around the roots of the oak. With fervor, they dropped to their knees and began to dig, clawing at the rich, dark soil. As their hands plunged into earth, excitement surged through Aaron, the prospect of untold riches overriding any hint of doubt. Minutes turned into an eternity, and sweat began to bead on their brows. Just as Malik was about to voice his concerns again, the spade hit something hard. A heavy thud echoed in the stillness of the night. Aaron exclaimed, his voice barely a whisper, trembling with anticipation. Malik asked, leaning in closer. Struggling to catch his breath, Aaron brushed the dirt away, revealing a weathered chest adorned with rusted hinges. For a moment, they were transfixed by the promise of what lay inside. Aaron's heart raced, imagining gold coins, jewels, anything that would pull them away from their mundane lives. But as he began to lift the lid, a sudden voice shattered the quiet night. Both men froze, horror coursing through them like ice. The towering figure of the farmer emerged from the shadows, illuminated by the glow of a lantern. The man was rugged, his face stern and lined with years of hard work. The fury in his eyes seemed to ignite the very air around them. Malik shouted. Panic surged between them as they scrambled to their feet, their minds racing like wildfire. They tore from the oak, heartbeats pounding in tandem with their hurried steps. The farmer bellowed, the sound echoing through the quiet night. They sprinted through the field, the tall grass whipping against their legs as if trying to hold them back. The sound of barking dogs filled the air, their growls sharpening the fear that gripped their chests. They realized they weren't just running from a man, they were fleeing the very consequences of their choices. Malik gasped, his breath turning shallow, panic flooding his veins. "Over there," Aaron yelled, pointing toward a dark line of trees that loomed ahead. They veered sharply, the thudding of their hearts drowned out by the chaos unfolding around them. The darkness of the woods enveloped them as they dashed deeper into the thicket. Trailing branches snagged at their clothes, pulling them back, but they pushed through, desperate to lose their pursuer. Every bark, every thud of the farmer's footsteps echoed like a warning bell, reminding them of their recklessness. Malik whispered, panting as they pressed their bodies against the trunk of a tree, desperate to catch their breath. "I don't know," Aaron replied, his voice laced with urgency. Silence consumed them, thick and heavy, but it was the kind of silence that felt dangerous, like the calm before a storm. They dared to peek from around the tree, but saw nothing. The night draped over them like a shroud, every moment stretching out, thick with tension. "Maybe we should just go back," Malik said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Apologize, explain." Aaron shot back. "He's not going to just let us go." "Yeah, but," Malik replied, feeling the fear coil tighter around him. "Desperation doesn't give us the right to steal," Aaron bit out, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. But if we go back, we'll have to face him, and before he could finish, a heavy footstep snapped them back to reality. The farmer's voice rang out again, calm but steely. You two think you can hide? Aaron's heart sank as he turned to face Malik. The look in his friend's eyes spoke volumes, fear intermingled with regret. Malik breathed, the weight of realization crashing into them both. Silence hung like a thick fog as they sat against the tree, the echoes of their earlier bravado fading into the night. As they listened to the farmer's footsteps draw nearer, the fear of the unknown loomed larger than life. Fine, Aaron finally muttered, his voice unsteady. With reluctance, they stepped from behind the tree, emerging into the open air. The farmer stood a few feet away, lantern held high, shadows dancing across his face, revealing a mixture of anger and disappointment. Don't make this worse than it already is, the farmer warned, his voice low and steady. They stood there, trepidation filling the space between them. We thought there was treasure, Aaron admitted, shame coloring his cheeks. He trailed off, not knowing how to justify their actions. The farmer narrowed his eyes, assessing them. Treasure. In that moment, Aaron and Malik felt small, as if the ground might swallow them whole. We were desperate, Malik finally managed, his voice trembling. The farmer let out a long sigh, his expression softening into something resembling empathy. This land has been my life's work, he said, gesturing to the field stretching beyond. Every coin you thought to steal is a result of hard labor, sweat, tears. Aaron lowered his head, the weight of the farmer's words crushing every ounce of bravado. You're right. You'll need to earn your keep now, the farmer stated, his tone firm yet not unkind. Malik asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Come back tomorrow at dawn, the farmer instructed, his face resolute. Aaron and Malik exchanged glances, a flicker of relief mixing with uncertainty. They had expected punishment, but instead they were being offered a chance to earn redemption. Okay, Aaron said finally, his voice steadying. As the sun rose the next day, they walked back to the farmhouse, uncertainty swirling around them. The sky shimmered with the promise of a new day, yet that promise came with a heavy heart, a chance to rectify their mistake. They approached the farm with caution, the moment ahead weighing heavily on them. Welcome, the farmer greeted, drawing them to his side. They spent the day toiling under a blazing sun, sweat pouring down their backs as they learned to plant, to weed, to dig. Every inch they worked felt like a step away from their past, away from the naivete they once clung to. Each drop of sweat was accompanied by a newfound understanding of the effort that underlined every accomplishment. Malik paused for a moment, wiping his brow. This is harder than I thought, he admitted, glancing at the horizon. The rewards of their labor began to take shape before their eyes, a small garden that would one day yield food, sustenance, life. With every passing day, the farmer's patience taught them resilience. The lessons were intertwined with the rhythm of nature as they learned to respect the cycles of life, the hard work it took to coax the earth into productivity, to nurture it until it bore fruit. You see, the farmer said one evening, resting under the shade of the shed, life is about more than just quick gains. He gestured at the rows of plants, a gentle smile breaking through. Aaron and Malik nodded, the gravity of the lessons dawning on them. They had started as thieves, drawn by greed, yet they emerged as learners, humbled by the land they had sought to exploit. As the seasons changed, so did they. The smiles on their faces grew brighter, their laughter mingling with the wind. They forged bonds not just with each other, but with the farmer and his land. Those conversations they had once avoided now blossomed into camaraderie, welcoming them into a community that thrived on hard work and respect. One day, as they gathered to harvest the crops, Malik turned to Aaron, emotions swirling within him. I can't believe where we started, he marveled, the sunlight illuminating his face as he reached for a basket of ripe vegetables. Yeah, Aaron replied, the weight of their past now a distant memory. This feels right. And in that moment, they realized they had forged something far more valuable than any treasure buried deep beneath the earth. They had built a life woven with purpose, respect, and community. As they concluded their work one evening, the farmer joined them, pride evident in his gaze. You've come a long way, he remarked, looking at the patch of land they had helped nurture. Standing side by side beneath the sprawling oak tree, They exchanged glances filled with unspoken understanding. They had faced the farmer's fury, yet instead of despair, they found growth. They were no longer burdened by the weight of greed, but strengthened by the realization that true hope lay not in riches, but in the bonds they had formed and the lives they had transformed. In the quiet atmosphere of dusk, laughter echoed against the backdrop of a setting sun as they embraced their new lives. The farmer smiled at the horizon, knowing that life's true treasures were far richer than gold rooted in hard work, shared experiences, and the laughter of those who dared to dream big. Aaron and Malik had unlocked the higher treasures of life, an inheritance far beyond their wildest dreams. A thick fog hung over the fields, curling around the old farmhouse like a ghostly blanket. It was a night ripe for mischief, the kind of night that whispered secrets of adventure. Two figures, Aaron and Malik, slipped quietly through the shadows, their hearts racing. They weren't just out for a stroll, they were hunting for treasure. The allure of untold wealth tugged at their souls, binding them to a path of danger and desperation. Malik's voice trembled, breaking the stillness of the night. He glanced nervously at the dark farmhouse, its shuttered windows obscuring the life inside. "Absolutely," Aaron replied, bravado spilling from him like the last drops of a crashing wave. The night air shimmered with possibility. Rumors of buried gold beneath the ancient oak tree had fueled their dreams for far too long. This night would be their chance to escape the life of dreary routine. As they approached the tree, its gnarled branches twisted toward the starlit sky, offering a sense of foreboding. It seemed to watch them, wise and old. They knelt at its base, fingers trembling with anticipation as they felt the cool earth give way beneath their hands. "Just a few feet down," Aaron encouraged, digging fervently. Hours felt like minutes as they dug deep. Hope swirled in the air like mist, mingling with the earthy scent of the soil. But the ground was stubborn and Malik's excitement began to fade, replaced by a sense of unease. He whispered, eyes darting to the house. "Focus, Malik." "We're so close," Aaron urged, his own anxiety creeping in through the cracks of his confidence. Each scrape of the shovel felt more urgent. Suddenly they hit something solid and a hard thud echoed into the stillness. Their hearts leapt. Aaron exclaimed, throwing dirt away and revealing a rotting wooden chest. It looked ancient, adorned with rust and memories. "Open it," Malik said, breathless with anticipation, but before Aaron could pry open the lid, a deep voice sliced through the air. Panic gripped them like a vice. They turned to see the farmer towering, fierce, and filled with wrath, standing just a few feet away. The lantern in his hand swung ominously, casting dancing shadows that seemed to join in his fury. Aaron bellowed, adrenaline surging as they bolted from the tree, heartbeats pounding. They dashed across the field, their desperate flight echoing through the night. The farmer yelled, the sound reverberating through the silence, heavy as the panic etched on Malik's face. The barks of his dogs filled the air, a menacing chorus amplifying their fear. They darted through the tall grass, legs pumping, breathless, the thrill of the chase mingling with dread. What had started as an adventure had spiraled into a nightmare. They were fleeing not just a man, but the weight of their actions. Malik yelled, his voice cracking under the strain. Aaron glanced to the edges of the field and spotted a dark line, an inviting thicket of trees. He shouted, veering off the path. They plunged into the trees, the embrace of darkness swallowing them whole. Thick branches scraped against them, but they pressed on, hearts racing. Malik gasped, stumbling over a root. Aaron whispered, pressing against the rough bark of a tree, trying to catch his breath. The sounds of pursuit echoed behind them, the farmer's furious roars mingling with the barking of his hounds, each growl a vow of anger and determination. Malik whispered, glancing into the shadows. "I don't know," Aaron replied, fear nipping at his heels. They could hear the farmer's voice carrying through the night, punctuating their desperation. "Come out, you cowardly thieves." Every word pierced through them, a reminder of their transgressions. In the tense silence, Malik's voice broke. "We should just go back, apologize." Aaron shot him a fierce look. "Are you out of your mind? He's not going to just let us off. We're in this deep now." Malik's voice trembled, fear creeping into his tone. "Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, we need to stay quiet and figure out how to get out of this," Aaron snapped, barely able to keep his voice steady. Around them, the woods closed in, shadows dancing menacingly. Suddenly, from the direction they had come, they heard heavy footsteps approaching. The farmer's voice grew closer, his anger bubbling. "I know you're out there. Let's go deeper," Malik suggested frantically, pulling Aaron further into the thicket. Panic fused with instinct, urging them to move. They clambered over roots and branches, breathing heavily, all thoughts of treasure forgotten. Finally, they found a small clearing, a moment's respite from the chaos. They pressed against the ground, trying to still their racing hearts. Malik whispered, glancing around. "I don't know," Aaron admitted, sensing the weight of their choices. The soft sound of the farmer's voice vibrated through the trees, echoing their dread. "You think you can escape?" Desperation pooled in Aaron's gut, coiling tight. "We have to face him," he said firmly. "We broke the law." Malik shook his head, eyes wide with terror. "Are you crazy?" "We can't keep running," Aaron insisted, determination taking root in his chest. Taking a deep breath, they adjusted their positions and steeled themselves. Heart pounding in his chest, Aaron led the way back toward the edge of the thicket, the adrenaline coursing through them like fire. "Okay, here goes nothing," he muttered, taking the first step into the open. The moon bloomed overhead, illuminating the ground beneath their feet, casting long shadows, but they remained steadfast. They would face the farmer. As the clearing opened up, the farmer stood arms crossed, fury swirling around him like a storm. He shouted, voice sharp enough to cut through the night air. "You thought you could hide?" His query hung heavily, and in the moment Aaron's courage flickered. "We weren't trying to rob you, we were just looking for treasure." The farmer scoffed, face twisted with anger. Before Aaron could respond, the dogs barked, their growls reverberating through the space. The farmer's eyes glinted with an intensity that sent chills down their spines. "I'm going to teach you a lesson," he said, stepping forward, shadows deepening around him. "Wait," Malik pleaded, stepping between Aaron and the farmer. "We didn't mean any harm, we're just tired of our lives." The farmer paused, eyebrow raised. "It was stupid, I know, but we're here now. We'll do anything," Aaron said, desperation bubbling to the surface. "Let us make it right. We'll work for you." The farmer crossed his arms, considering them for a moment that felt like an eternity. Then an unexpected smile broke through. "Work for me, you say? You've got guts." But then the grin faded. A shiver ran through Aaron and Malik, a mix of relief and dread swirling in their guts. "We will," Malik promised, earnestness in his tone. "We'll work hard." "Fine," the farmer said, turning on his heel. "But you start now." As they walked back toward the farmhouse, a blend of uncertainty and determination filled the air around them. They entered the barn, the smell of hay and earth flooding their senses. With every step they took, the weight of their choices became heavier and their resolve grew stronger. "Tomorrow, you'll start at dawn," the farmer instructed. "You'll earn your keep the hard way." But just as hope started to blossom, shadows danced at the edge of the barn, and a flicker of movement caught Aaron's eye. He murmured, glancing back. Before they could react, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by the frantic barking of the dogs. The farmer's expression turned dark. He commanded, sprinting toward the door. Aaron and Malik exchanged terrified glances, knowing they had just stepped into a world that teetered on the brink of chaos. The air thickened around them as they stood frozen, hearts racing even faster than before. Just as the farmer burst through the door, everything shattered. A figure darted past the farmhouse, something glinting in the dim light, the chaos erupting outside growing louder. The farmer yelled, charging after the shadow, leaving Aaron and Malik alone in the barn, hearts pounding, fear flooding their senses. Malik whispered, the words barely escaping his lips. "We need to check it out," Aaron replied, instinct pushing him forward. But before they could make a move, the barn doors slammed shut and silence gripped the space like a vice. As shadows loomed larger around them, a chilling realization washed over them. They weren't just confronting the farmer's wrath, they were now trapped in a situation escalating beyond anything they could handle. With darkness closing in, they stood at the precipice of uncertainty, knowing that the night had only just begun. The haunting echo of what lay outside reverberated through their minds, the anguish of choices made, and the chilling prospect of a looming threat that had yet to reveal itself. Faced with the unknown, they braced themselves for whatever storm would come next.